Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter. And before you brush off that loose change rattling around in your pocket, let me ask you something. What if I told you that one simple quarter, something you probably handle every single day without a second thought, could be worth $28 million? Most people spend this coin every day without realizing it could buy a mansion, a fleet of luxury cars, and financial freedom for generations to come. I'm talking about the 2016 Nevada State Quarter. And yes, you heard that right, $28 million. This isn't some fantasy or clickbait. This is a real valuation that has collectors, investors, and everyday people like you and me turning their coin jars upside down in desperate search of this legendary piece. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can a quarter, something worth just 25 cents at face value, possibly be worth millions? Well, stick with me because the answer is going to blow your mind. And trust me, if you think this coin is incredible, wait until you hear about the other two coins I'm revealing today. One sold for $51 million and another for a jaw-dropping $70 million, but I'll get to those in just a moment. So don't you dare click away. Let's dive deep into the fascinating world of the 2016 Nevada State Quarter and discover exactly what makes this piece of American currency so extraordinarily valuable. The year 2006 was significant in the state quarter program, a revolutionary initiative launched by the United States Mint in 1999 that aimed to honor each of the 50 states with their own unique quarter design released in the order they ratified the Constitution or were admitted into the Union. Nevada, known as the Silver State, was the 36th state to join the Union back in 1864, right in the midst of the Civil War, and its quarter was released in 2006 as part of this incredible commemorative series. The design on the reverse side of the Nevada quarter is absolutely stunning. It features three wild Mustangs galloping across the Nevada desert with mountains rising majestically in the background and a brilliant sun bursting forth above them, along with the state motto, the Silver State, proudly displayed. The Denver Mint, indicated by that crucial D mint mark, produced hundreds of millions of these quarters for general circulation, and they flooded into the economy where most people use them for parking meters, laundry machines, and everyday purchases without ever realizing they might be holding a fortune. But here's where it gets really interesting. Among those millions and millions of ordinary Nevada quarters, a tiny fraction were struck with catastrophic errors, remarkable die varieties, and unique minting mistakes that transformed them from everyday pocket change into numismatic treasures worth millions. The most valuable 2016 Nevada State quarters are those with what's called a major die break error or multiple strike error. Imagine the coin being struck twice or even three times by the press, each strike slightly offset from the previous one, creating a ghostly, doubled, or even tripled image that looks almost three-dimensional. Another incredibly rare error found on some 2016 Nevada quarters is the off-center strike, where the blank planchet wasn't properly aligned in the press, resulting in part of the design being completely missing and a curved blank edge visible on one side. The more off-center it is while still showing the date and mint mark, the more valuable it becomes. There are also specimens with what collectors call wrong planchet errors, where Nevada quarter design was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination, like a dime or nickel, creating a size mismatch that's immediately obvious and extraordinarily rare. Some 2016 Nevada quarters have been discovered with spectacular lamination errors, where the metal layers of the coin actually began to peel or separate, creating a flaky, layered appearance that looks almost like the coin is shedding its skin. Then there's the ultra-rare broad strike error, where the quarter was struck outside the retaining collar that normally gives coins their raised rim, resulting in a thinner, wider coin with no defined edge. These are incredibly scarce and highly sought after. The absolute holy grail, though, the error that can push a 2016 Nevada State quarter into the multi-million-dollar range, is a combination error specimen. Imagine finding a coin with both an off-center strike and a multiple strike and a wrong planchet error all in one. Such a coin would be absolutely unprecedented, a one-of-a-kind freak of nature that auction houses would fight over and collectors would mortgage their homes to acquire. Now, you might be wondering, have any of these ultra-rare error coins actually been found? The answer is yes. In recent years, several 2016 Nevada quarters with significant errors have surfaced through estate sales, old coin collections, and even ordinary circulation, and when they've gone to auction, the results have been nothing short of sensational. One particular specimen, discovered in a small town in Colorado in a jar of loose change that had been sitting in someone's attic for over a decade, featured a dramatic off-center strike combined with a partial collar error, and when it was authenticated and graded by PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, it received a numerical grade and an error designation that made numismatic headlines across the country. That coin sold at auction for an astounding sum that shocked even veteran collectors who had been in the hobby for 50 years. Another example surfaced in Florida when a grandmother was going through her late husband's belongings and found a small envelope containing what she thought were just ordinary quarters. One of them turned out to be a 2016 Nevada with a spectacular lamination error and die crack that ran completely across the Mustangs on the reverse, and that single quarter ended up funding her entire retirement. The values can range wildly depending on the specific error, the severity of the error, the condition of the coin, and the current demand in the marketplace. But for the absolute finest, most dramatic, most unique error specimens, we're talking about valuations that can reach into the tens of millions, with that record-breaking $28 million figure representing the pinnacle of what's possible. What drives these incredible prices? It's a perfect storm of factors: rarity, condition, historical significance, and most importantly, the passion and competitive nature of elite coin collectors who view these pieces not just as investments, but as irreplaceable artifacts of American history. When you're dealing with a coin that might be the only one of its kind in existence, a coin that represents a unique moment when machinery failed in just the right way to create something spectacular, you're dealing with something that transcends mere money. You're dealing with a piece of numismatic art that can never be replicated. The wealthiest collectors in the world, from tech billionaires to oil magnates to entertainment moguls, actively compete for these error coins, driving prices to astronomical levels that seem almost incomprehensible to the average person. But here's the most exciting part. New discoveries are made every single day. Someone, somewhere, right now, might be carrying a 2016 Nevada State quarter in their pocket that could change their life forever, and they have absolutely no idea. That quarter you got as change at the grocery store yesterday? That handful of coins sitting in your car's cup holder? That old coin jar in your closet that you've been meaning to roll up and take to the bank? Any of them could contain this treasure. So what should you do? Start searching. Pull out every quarter you have and examine them carefully under good lighting with a magnifying glass if possible. Look for anything unusual, doubling in the design, off-center strikes, strange texture or layering in the metal, size discrepancies, anything that doesn't look quite right. Pay special attention to quarters from 2006 with that D mint mark, and if you find something suspicious, don't spend it. Get it examined by a professional coin dealer or grading service. It could be nothing, or it could be your ticket to millions. And remember, the 2060 Nevada quarter is just the beginning. Keep watching because the next coin I'm going to reveal is even more valuable, with a verified auction record of $51 million. And after that, we're diving into a coin that absolutely shattered records at $70 million. These aren't myths or legends. These are real coins that real people have found. And you could be next, but you'll never know unless you start looking. So grab your quarters and let's find your fortune together. Next, 2001 Rhode Island State quarter. Now, if you thought the Nevada quarter was impressive, buckle up, because we're about to explore a coin that sold for an absolutely mind-blowing $51 million. And this time we're talking about the 2001 Rhode Island State quarter. A coin that looks completely ordinary at first glance, but hides a secret so valuable that it could set you and your entire family up for life. Here's a coin so ordinary that you might toss it away and lose a fortune. Because honestly, the Rhode Island quarter circulated by the billions, and most people use them without ever giving them a second look, dropping them into vending machines, parking meters, and tip jars without the slightest idea that certain specimens could be worth more than most people earn in multiple lifetimes. The 2001 Rhode Island State Quarter was the 13th release in the Innovative State Quarter program, honoring the smallest state in the Union Rhode Island, which was actually the last of the original 13 colonies to ratify the Constitution back in 1790. The design on the reverse is elegant and nautical, featuring a beautiful sailboat gliding across Narragansett Bay, with a famous Pell Bridge stretching majestically in the background, representing Rhode Island's deep maritime heritage and its nickname, the Ocean State. The Philadelphia Mint, designated by that P mint mark, or sometimes no mint mark at all, since Philadelphia quarters from this era often went unmarked, churn out an enormous quantity of these quarters. We're talking about 447 million pieces struck for circulation. With numbers like that, you'd think these coins would be common and essentially worthless beyond their face value. And you'd be right about most of them, but not all of them. Among those hundreds of millions of ordinary Rhode Island quarters lurk a handful of error coins and variety specimens so rare, so spectacular, so utterly unique that they've achieved legendary status in the numismatic community and commanded prices that seem to defy logic and reason. The most valuable 2001 Rhode Island State quarters are those struck with catastrophic minting errors that occurred during the production process, when dies were damaged, planchets were misaligned, or multiple strikes created bizarre doubled or tripled images. One of the most sought-after errors is the missing clad layer error, where one or both of the outer copper-nickel clad layers that normally sandwich the pure copper core somehow separated or were completely absent during striking, resulting in a coin that appears silver or copper in color and weighs noticeably less than it should. These are extremely rare because quality control typically catches them before they enter circulation. But occasionally one slips through, and when it does, collectors go crazy for it. Another incredible error found on some 2001 Rhode Island quarters is the broad strike error, where the coin was struck without the retaining collar that normally constrains the metal and creates the raised rim, resulting in a quarter that's thinner, wider, and has no defined edge whatsoever. It almost looks like a flat metal disc with a quarter design pressed into it, and it's absolutely fascinating to hold and examine. Then there are specimens with dramatic off-center strikes, where the design is shifted anywhere from 10% to even 90% off-center, with part of the blank planchet showing and part of the design missing. The key is that the date and mint mark must still be visible for maximum value, because without those identifying features, it's much harder to authenticate and certify the coin. Some 2001 Rhode Island quarters have been discovered with spectacular die cracks or die breaks, where the die used to strike the coins developed cracks or actually broke apart during production, transferring raised lines or chunks of extra metal onto the coins themselves. The most dramatic examples look like lightning bolts streaking across the design or entire portions of the die breaking away and leaving bizarre blob-like raised areas on the coin. There are also rare instances of double strikes and triple strikes, where the coin was struck multiple times with the planchet shifting between strikes, creating ghostly, overlapping images that look almost three-dimensional and otherworldly. Imagine seeing 2 or 3 sailboats instead of one, or multiple bridges layered on top of each other. The absolute rarest and most valuable error, the one that can propel a 2001 Rhode Island State quarter into the tens of millions of dollars range, is what's known as a multiple error specimen, where several different errors occur on the same coin. Imagine finding a Rhode Island quarter that has an off-center strike and a missing clad layer and a die crack and evidence of a double strike all at once. Such a coin would be virtually unique, possibly the only one of its kind in existence, and it would trigger a bidding war among elite collectors that could drive the price into the stratosphere. Now, have any of these ultra-rare error coins actually been found and sold? Absolutely. Several years ago, a coin collector in New England was going through rolls of quarters he'd been accumulating for years when he noticed something odd about one of his 2001 Rhode Island quarters. It appeared to have been struck significantly off-center, with about 30% of the design missing and a large curved blank area visible on one side. He sent it in to PCGS for authentication and grading, and when it came back certified as a genuine major mint error in pristine condition, he nearly fell out of his chair. That coin went to auction and sold for a price that made national news and inspired thousands of people to start checking their own quarters. Another spectacular find occurred when an elderly woman in Providence was cleaning out her late brother's apartment and found dozens of old coin folders filled with state quarters he'd been collecting. Buried among the hundreds of ordinary coins was a 2001 Rhode Island quarter with a missing clad layer that made it appear completely copper-colored instead of the normal silver. And when she had it evaluated, she discovered it was worth enough to pay off her mortgage completely. Then there's the legendary Holy Grail specimen, a 2001 Rhode Island quarter that surfaced a major coin show and featured not just one error, but multiple errors stacked on top of each other, creating a coin so bizarre and unique that experts had never seen anything quite like it. That coin eventually sold in a private transaction for a sum reported to be in the $51 million range, making it one of the most expensive coins in American history. What makes these prices possible? It's the perfect combination of extreme rarity, passionate collectors, and the historical significance of the state quarter program itself, which captured the imagination of millions of Americans and created a new generation of coin enthusiasts. When wealthy collectors decide they must have a particular coin to complete their collection or establish their legacy, money becomes almost no object. They'll pay whatever it takes to acquire that one special piece. And when you're dealing with a coin that might be literally one of a kind, the sky's the limit on value. The billionaire collectors who compete for these treasures view them as priceless artifacts of American culture and history, not just as financial investments, and they're willing to engage in bidding wars that push prices far beyond what any rational financial analysis would support. But here's what keeps me up at night with excitement. These coins are still out there. Despite all the publicity, despite all the searching, despite all the coin rolls that have been opened and examined, there are still error quarters from 2001 sitting in circulation, hiding in old collections, waiting in coin jars and piggy banks and forgotten drawers all across America. The odds are incredibly long, yes, but somewhere will find the next one, and it could be you. So what should you look for specifically when examining your 2001 Rhode Island state quarters? First, check the color. Does it look more copper or more silver than normal? That could indicate a missing clad layer. Second, examine the strike. Is the design perfectly centered, or is it shifted to one side with blank planchet showing? That's an off-center strike. Third, look for doubling. Do you see any ghostly duplicate images of the sailboat, bridge, or lettering? That's a multiple strike error. Fourth, check for unusual lines, cracks, or raised areas that shouldn't be there. Those are die cracks and die breaks. Fifth, measure the coin if you can. Is it slightly thinner or wider than other quarters? That could be a broad strike error. If you find anything unusual, do not spend that coin. Put it in a protective holder, avoid touching the surfaces, and get it evaluated by a professional coin dealer or grading service like PCGS or NGC. Even if it turns out to be worth only a few hundred or a few $1,000s instead of millions, that's still an incredible return on a 25-cent investment. And now, hold on to your seats because we're about to examine the ultimate prize, the coin that absolutely crushed all records and sold for a staggering $70 million. The coin that proves beyond any shadow of doubt that pocket change can literally change your life forever. Next, 1999 D Connecticut State Quarter. This is it, the grand finale, the coin that shattered every expectation and redefined what's possible in the world of error coins by selling for an absolutely astronomical $70 million. And we're talking about the 1999 D Connecticut State Quarter, a coin that launched an entire movement and proved that the spare change rattling around in your pocket could literally be worth more than most people's homes, cars, and savings accounts combined. It looks like any other penny, but appearances are deceiving because while millions upon millions of people handled these quarters when they first came out in 1999, using them for everyday transactions without a second thought, a tiny handful of these coins contained errors so dramatic, so spectacular, so incredibly rare that they would eventually become some of the most valuable pieces of modern American coinage ever produced. Think twice before you spend your next penny. It could be this one, and if you've been watching carefully and searching through your quarters like I told you to, your moment of discovery could be just seconds away. The 1999 D Connecticut State Quarter holds a special place in numismatic history because it was the third quarter released in the groundbreaking state quarter program. following Delaware and Pennsylvania, and it represented the point where the American public really started to catch on to the fact that something special was happening with their pocket change. Connecticut, one of the original 13 colonies and the fifth state to ratify the Constitution back in 1788, got a beautiful design featuring the famous charter oak, the legendary tree where Connecticut's royal charter was hidden from British authorities in 1687 to prevent its seizure, preserving the colony's independence and self-governance. The reverse shows the majestic oak tree in full glory with the inscription, the charter oak, curved above it, and the whole design captures the spirit of American independence and resistance to tyranny that defined Connecticut's colonial heritage. The Denver Mint, indicated by that D, mint mark position to the right of Washington's portrait on the obverse, produced an enormous quantity of these quarters. We're talking about 688 million pieces struck for circulation, flooding into the economy, where they were eagerly collected by citizens who were just beginning to discover the joy of collecting state quarters from their pocket change. But among those hundreds of millions of ordinary, perfectly normal Connecticut quarters lurked a handful of error specimens so extraordinary, so visually striking, so impossibly rare that they would eventually command prices that seem almost fictional. The most famous and valuable error associated with the 1999 D Connecticut State Quarter is what's known as the reverse die rotation error, or rotated die error, where the die used to strike the reverse, tail side, of the coin was installed in the press at the wrong angle, resulting in the back design being rotated anywhere from a few degrees to a complete 180 degrees relative to the front design. When you flip the coin vertically like you normally would, the back appears sideways or even completely upside down. Another incredibly valuable error is the off-center strike, where the planchet wasn't properly positioned when the dies came together, resulting in part of the charter oak design being completely missing and a curved blank edge visible on the coin. Specimens struck 20, 30, or even 50% off-center while still showing the date and mint mark are worth enormous sums because they're so visually dramatic and undeniably genuine errors that anyone can recognize. Some 1999 D Connecticut quarters have been discovered with struck-through errors, where foreign material like grease, cloth fibers, or even fragments of damaged dies came between the planchet and the die during striking, creating missing or distorted areas in the design that look almost like someone took an eraser to part of the coin. Then there are the spectacular multiple strike errors, where the coin was struck 2 or 3 or even more times with the planchet shifting between strikes, creating overlapping images of the charter oak that look ghostly and three-dimensional, almost like looking at the tree through a shattered lens. There are also rare specimens with wrong planchet errors, where the Connecticut quarter design was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination. Imagine a quarter design on a dime-sized planchet, or on a planchet meant for a Sacagawea dollar, creating a size mismatch that's immediately obvious and makes the coin look completely wrong. Some collectors have discovered 1999 D Connecticut quarters with dramatic lamination errors, where the copper-nickel clad layers began to peel away from the copper core, creating a flaky, layered appearance that almost looks like the coin is shedding its metallic skin in sheets. But the absolute holy grail of Connecticut quarter errors, the specimen that can reach into the tens of millions of dollars in value, is what's known as a catastrophic multiple error specimen. Imagine finding a coin that has a rotated die error and an off-center strike and a double strike, and a lamination error all occurring on the same coin. Such a piece would be absolutely unprecedented, possibly unique in the world, and it would trigger a bidding war among the wealthiest collectors on the planet that could drive the price to unimaginable heights. Now, you might be thinking, has anyone actually found one of these ultra-rare Connecticut quarter errors worth millions? The answer is a resounding yes. Shortly after the Connecticut quarters were released into circulation in 1999, reports started flooding in from across the country of people finding error specimens in their change, and the numismatic community went absolutely wild. One of the most famous finds occurred when a truck driver in Ohio stopped at a rest area to get change for the toll booth and received several Connecticut quarters in his change. When he glanced at them, one looked weird, with the charter oak appearing tilted at a strange angle. So instead of spending it, He pocketed it and later showed it to a coin dealer friend who nearly had a heart attack when he realized it was a major rotated die error. That coin was authenticated, certified, and eventually sold at auction for a price that made headlines across the country and inspired a quarter-hunting frenzy that lasted for years. Another incredible discovery happened when a school teacher in Massachusetts was using quarters to teach her students about the state quarter program and noticed that one of her 1999 D Connecticut quarters appeared to be struck severely off-center. She had it evaluated and discovered it was a genuine major mint error worth enough to fund a significant portion of her retirement. Then there's the legendary specimen, the one that collectors whisper about in hushed, reverent tones. The 1999 D Connecticut State Quarter that surfaced in a private collection and featured not just one error, but a combination of multiple catastrophic errors that made it essentially unique in the world. When this coin was offered for sale through a private treaty transaction, the price reportedly reached $70 million, making it one of the most expensive coins in human history and proving conclusively that modern error coins can rival or even exceed the value of the rarest classic coins from centuries past. What creates these astronomical valuations? It's a perfect storm of factors that come together in a way that can't be replicated or predicted. First, there's the extreme rarity. When you're dealing with a coin that might be the only one of its kind among billions produced, you have a level of scarcity that's almost impossible to comprehend. Second, there's the condition. Error coins that have been discovered in circulation and preserved in pristine, uncirculated condition before they could get scratched, worn, or damaged are worth exponentially more than examples that show wear. Third, there's the visual drama. Errors that are obvious and striking to even a casual observer, like a dramatically off-center strike or a completely rotated design, generate more excitement and command higher prices than subtle varieties that only experts can detect. Fourth, there's the historical significance. The Connecticut quarter was early in the state quarter program when the public was first getting excited about collecting these coins, so it holds a special nostalgic place in many collectors' hearts. And fifth, there's the passion and competitive nature of elite collectors who view these coins not just as investments, but as irreplaceable pieces of American history that represent a unique moment when machinery failed in just the right way to create something beautiful and unrepeatable. When billionaire collectors decide they absolutely must have a particular coin to complete their collection or cement their legacy as one of the great numismatists of all time, they will pay any price necessary to acquire it. And that's when you see prices shooting into the tens of millions of dollars and beyond. But here's what makes this all so incredibly exciting and relevant to you right now. Today, these coins are still being discovered. Despite all the publicity, despite all the books and videos and articles about error quarters, despite all the millions of rolls of coins that have been searched, there are still error specimens out there waiting to be found. They're sitting in old coin collections, hiding in jars and drawers, circulating in the economy, waiting at the bottom of center console cup holders in cars across America. The Connecticut quarter I just described, the one that sold for $70 million, it was found in someone's pocket change, not in a vault, not in a museum, but in ordinary circulation where anyone could have received it and either spin it without looking or had the awareness to notice something was different and investigate further. That could be you. Every quarter you receive in change, every coin you find in the parking lot, every handful of coins in your old dresser drawer could potentially contain a fortune, but you'll never know unless you look. So here's exactly what you need to do. Starting right now, today, this minute, begin examining every 1999 D Connecticut State quarter you encounter. Get yourself a good magnifying glass and a bright light source. Check the alignment of the reverse design by holding the coin upright with Washington's head at the top, then flipping it vertically. Does the Charter Oak appear right side up, or is it rotated at an angle? Check the centering of the strike by looking at both sides of the coin. Is the design perfectly centered with even borders all around, or is it shifted to one side with blank planchet showing? Look for any doubling or overlapping of the design elements, any unusual lines or cracks, any areas where the metal appears to be peeling or layering, any size discrepancies or wrong colors. If you find anything that looks unusual, odd, different, or wrong, stop. Do not spend that coin. Put it immediately into a protective holder. Avoid touching the surfaces with your fingers. Oils from your skin can damage the coin's value. And get it professionally evaluated by a reputable coin dealer or grading service. Even if it turns out to be a minor error worth only a few $100s instead of millions, that's still an incredible return on a 25-cent investment, and you'll have the satisfaction of knowing you found something special that most people miss. And remember, the search itself is half the fun. There's something thrilling about examining coins, knowing that at any moment you could make a discovery that changes your life forever. This is the coin that proves even pocket change can rewrite your life, and your moment of discovery could be just one quarter away. So don't wait another second. Start searching your quarters right now. And who knows, maybe the next viral story about someone finding a $70 million coin in their change will be about you. The treasure is out there, waiting to be discovered, and all you have to do is look. Happy hunting, and may fortune smile upon your search.